Hello and welcome to another episode of Talon Talk. I'm Jess Liptzin, and joining with me today is head coach of the women's and men's swimming team, Brian McLaughlin. Coach, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks, Jesse.
Coach, before we get into it, let's take a quick look at Montclair State's Live for Tomorrow.
No one knows what tomorrow will look like. No one ever has. Montclair State students have always known how to seize the moment to take the power to define their own tomorrows. That's right. Tomorrow is yours for the making, and we're here to help make it yours. We promise this: no matter what tomorrow looks like, your future is here. Elevate your tomorrow. Montclair State University.
And we're back. Joined with me now is head coach of the women's and men's swimming team, Brian McLaughlin. Coach, let's before we get into this season, let's get to know you a little bit more. You're the second longest tenured coach here at Montclair State. So where did that passion for coaching begin?
I think it really began, Jesse, with my high school swimming coach. I grew up in a smaller city in Connecticut, and we had an assistant football coach that became our swimming coach. His name was Newell Porch. Came from the city of Waterbury, and he basically inspired a lot of us to swim in college and continue with the sport. And for me, he was a physical education teacher and coach, and I kind of tried to model myself after him, except for the football.
Kind of midway through the season at this point, the men's team is 4-2, women's team is 4-2-1. You're coming off wins, but struggling a little bit in the NJAC. How have you really felt about this season up to this point?
I think it's been a pretty good season thus far. The only loss on the women's side was to College of New Jersey. We tied Rowan earlier this season. I am optimistic with William Patterson and Ramapo, which we have second semester, so I think it's going to be good. I guess in answer to that question, we kind of front load the tougher competition in the NJAC, not to disparage what we have second semester, but Rowan and TCNJ are very formidable opponents, typically ranked in the top 20.
So on the men's side, to focus on just a couple of big names, who has really stood out to you? You have talented swimmers in Tyler Dorsett, Spencer Dubois. Who really stood out to you at this point?
Well, I'd say, Jesse, I'll name three. You just referenced, Spencer is obviously very good. We have two other individuals on the team that I think can make NCAA Division III-B cuts. So along with Spencer, we have another breaststroker, Brandon Doe. He's a freshman. And we have another freshman, Lucas Gomez from Rutherford. And we think he also has a chance of making the NCAA cut.
Yeah, talking about Doe, he's won Rookie of the Week a couple times now. Talk a little bit about what he just brings to the table as a young underclassman being so talented.
Yeah, what he brings, Jesse, is a big background. He comes from one of the better teams in the region, Scarlet Aquatic Club. It's a high volume, high yardage program, highly respected. So when we were able to pick him up, we knew we didn't have to get him in shape. He came in ready to go. It's why he had a win against the College of New Jersey on October 16th in his first meet.
Nice. And I know you're not really the diving coach, but I think it's important that you talk a little bit about what Alex Talon brings to the table. He is your only diver on that side, so maybe also talk about the struggles of only having one placer.
Right. We lost Ian Johnson, who was a multi-sport athlete, soccer, swimming, and football. We miss him. Alex has done a phenomenal job. Great personality, very charismatic, brings a lot to the program besides just the points in those events. But I do want to mention on the women's side, we have 4 divers. The top diver is Emma Bowers, and that's an interesting story in that she made the transition from swimming to diving. And even though, obviously, the commonality is the water, the two things couldn't be more different. It's like hurdles and throwing the shot put. What she's doing has been incredible, and she's doing it to the highest level, and we couldn't be happier. She was NJAC Diver of the Week, actually, this past week.
Yeah, that's really impressive. Kind of staying on the women's side and diving more specifically, to have 4 divers there and kind of a little bit of stability you have there. What kind of comfort does that bring to the women's team?
Well, I have a friend that's a coach in the conference who just had a tough competition, lost by 1 point on Saturday, and he and I were texting back and forth. They took a big hit in diving. They didn't have any divers. They started that meet 32 points in the hole. So if you dig a hole like that, it's very difficult to dig your way out of it. So knowing that we have divers is a calming feeling. We know in those 2 of the 16 events, we're going to hold our own. It's very, very important.
Mm-hmm. And sticking with the women's team, it's kind of funny, like last year when you end the season, it's like, oh, I want my underclassmen to, get more experience, and I want the upperclassmen to stick around. And you kind of got that a little bit with Cheravino and Rothmel being able to stick around. What have you liked from that side and that team so far?
It's been great. Those 2, Sophia and Emily, have been phenomenal. We actually, my assistant Maria Vera and I, use that as an example for recruiting, that even though the sport's a grind, it's a winter sport, our swimmers are coming here in the dark for their first workout in the morning. It can get old at some point. We tell our recruits we have 2 super seniors, so to speak, that got the 5th year because of COVID. And I think it's a testament to the program and that they wanted to continue after 4 years and use their 5th.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel like recruiting, we heard Karen Harvey, head coach of the women's basketball team, say how she wasn't able to see her recruits live for the first time. Did you have any struggles with recruiting due to the pandemic?
We didn't have as much because it's time driven, but I think that what was interesting is the high school seniors didn't have as many competitions last year. So typically it seemed like every other recruit talked about their potential. So we brought in several recruits, actually 17, that includes transfers and freshmen, and that's been very, very important to our program. So we couldn't see people in person, but I don't think we missed a beat as far as actually following the line of the university from Dr. Cole at the time, Dr. Pennington, Rob Chesney, our athletic director, was try to keep things up and running. A lot of opponents of ours in the Metropolitan Conference are down in numbers, down in quality. We really didn't miss a beat in that regard. We feel very blessed.
Do you feel like there's some strategy that goes into having this 5th year rule, recruiting wise, that you can, maybe look for undergrads graduating too? Does there bring a different element to the recruiting factor?
I just think it's actually, Jesse, a good problem to have because your team is a little bit bigger. We have a 6-lane, 25-yard pool. Trying to figure out moving forward next year how we're going to train both teams, possibly not at the same time. So I think it creates a good problem having that 5th year. And that being said, we have a couple swimmers, I'm not going to get into their names right now, we have a couple swimmers on our team that are going to use their 5th year next year. Awesome. Which is great for us.
Yeah, definitely. It's cool seeing the different teams. I know baseball is bringing back 5 players this year, and then we kind of saw some of the women's soccer players come back, which was cool. Now, focusing on it was a crazy year last year. You've coached for a long time, and it was your first time virtually competing, I assume. How was that? How did you feel like your team handled that?
Well, thanks to you and your crew, it went really well. It started with our first virtual meet. We swam against Coast Guard and the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. Springfield had a COVID issue and they had to opt out, but it was such an odd year. Coast Guard and Merchant Marine Academy are big rivals, the Division III equivalent of Army Navy. It was such an odd year, they agreed to swim with us virtually. It was live streamed. It could not have gone better.
Nice. Yeah, I don't think traveling is going to be too much of a problem for you guys, as you guys are traveling in a couple weeks to Clearwater, Florida for your training break. Tell me, why is that important that you guys go to these training trips?
Well, for the last 9 years, we were in the Virgin Islands. We were in the island of St. Croix, and actually our most valuable swimmer from last year, Lydia Boguslawska, is from the island. The trips help us bond. More importantly, put us outdoors in a 50-meter facility. So for those of you that don't know, the viewers, we have a 25-yard pool. It's that distance plus another pool plus another 5 yards. So it's a 55-yard facility, and it breaks the monotony of going up and down a 25-yard pool and kind of bouncing off walls. So long course training is invaluable. I think recruits that are looking at a school know that a lot of schools travel. It breaks up the season. So to get away is very, very important. So we are very, very appreciative that Montclair State's allowing us to go to Florida, a break from what we've done recently. It's not the Virgin Islands, but it's also not Upper Montclair either. So we couldn't be more excited.
So then when you guys come back from the break, you'll have a meet right away. What are kind of expectations you have for when you guys come back and for the rest of the season?
Basically, when we come back, we try to keep the yardage up. We don't bring yardage down because we shave, rest, and taper for the Metropolitan meet at Rutgers in the third week in February. So expectations are to swim fast when you're a little bit broken down and a little bit tired.
Alrighty, and so I saw a video, and you're gonna have to tell me a little bit about the backstory of it, where you jumped into a pool fully clothed. How did they get you to do that?
I got myself to do that. I was just trying to get the team to realize that at any given time you can get up and swim fast. And it was a challenge to one of our freshmen from Virginia. If she went under 26 in the 50 free at the end of practice, I would jump in fully clothed, and she did it. So it was fun. And it's just like, I guess, a little bit of a mental game. Like, how can you get people up and ready to go? And the sport can be a bit boring at times, so anything we can do to make it more exciting, we try.
That's awesome. Yeah, and then I was at the NCAA tournament for soccer where it was a little bit windy, a little bit bad weather, and you were out there helping out, blowing the leaves.
Right, I'm also an assistant athletic director in charge of facilities. I'm a big soccer fan, so I wanted to lend a hand. And ironically, the person that I worked with from a college, site supervisor, the NCAA rep from Western New England, he was here, and the two of us worked very hard at getting the leaves off the field. And then 3 minutes later, they were back on.
Yeah,
you saw that.
Yeah, I was gonna say
But
that.
I give ourselves,
it looked good.
I give ourselves A for effort.
Yeah. All right. Before we wrap up, let's get to know you a little bit more as well. I know you coached tennis for a little bit. So, what do you like more, coaching swimming or tennis?
Definitely swimming. Tennis was fun. The one thing I learned about tennis is basically what all coaches know: recruiting, recruiting, recruiting. We started off at the bottom. We ended up winning a co-championship with the College of New Jersey near the end. We took a fall season, expanded it, and went fall and spring. Took our team to Amsterdam. We did just incredible things. So I enjoyed my time with it. But I'm definitely, my background growing up, and in my heart, it's all swimming.
Are you more of a sprint swimmer or a distance swimmer?
I was a backstroker in college, and as far as my expertise in coaching, probably more so for back and free. Maria Vera, my longtime assistant, she was a breaststroker for me. My other assistant, Liam Tully, swam at Rowan, was a breaststroker as well. They're younger, faster, and they know more about that stroke. So in answer to the question, back and free.
Okay, was going to be my next question.
Well, I don't swim anymore, so
Okay.
my thing is running.
Unless you're jumping into the water to motivate the team.
True.
So now, what do you like more, sports movies, or since you're a swimming coach, do you like water movies, like Finding Nemo, or?
I think, there's been some great sports movies. I get kidded by my colleagues that I'm not a sports fan, but I really am. I love the movie Hoosiers, and this predates most of the people in this room, but All the Right Moves with Tom Cruise when he was a young guy, Ampipe High School football, great movies. There's just been some great ones.
I think swimmers are really known for their appetite and the meals that they have, the calories. What is your go-to meal, your favorite food?
My go-to is pizza. I occasionally even give that up for Lent. Doesn't bring me closer to God, but anyway, pizza is definitely my downfall. has always been my downfall. And one of our assistant basketball coaches, Coach Rossi, he follows Barstool, does all the pizza reviews, so he's kind of whetting my appetite, so to speak, to continue on that, in that vein.
You got to start doing a pizza review. I think.
We should.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you joining me here on this episode of Talon Talk. We wish you luck the rest of the way and have fun in Clearwater.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Appreciate it, and I appreciate all the behind-the-scenes workers here. I want to say one more thing about last year, the virtual year. Were it not for this, being on camera, we would not be in the position we are today. So thank you, thank you.